Hey, welcome to On the Clock, a collaboration between the Pack-A-Day Podcast and the Draft Fellows. I'm Andrew Mertig. That is Kyle Fellows. Together, we are the Draft Fellows, and over the next few months, we'll be doing a series that covers picks 1 through 32, the team's biggest needs, and who they should be considering at that pick. You can check out the video of all 32 of these episodes on the Draft Fellows channel on YouTube. You can check out the audio version on Pack-A-Day Podcast, as well as you can check out the Draft Fellows for our other content surrounding roster building and NFL draft, all leading up to late April. And Kyle, believe it or not, we are on pick 11 today.
Yeah, we are. It's really exciting to continue this journey through all these picks. I feel like we've learned so much, coming through the combine and just kind of getting a feel for where a lot of these players are going to land. We get to continue the conversation today with the San Francisco 49ers. And at pick 11, there are a lot of different things that these 49ers could do. They could go offensive line, they could go defensive line, they could stay in the trenches, really. And they have a few needs to consider along the offensive line. Dominic Puny was a real steal for this 49ers club and had a dominant beginning to his career there at guard in the NFL. But San Francisco's other guard spot in 2024 was Aaron Banks, and he had his best year as a pro, but he's an unrestricted free agent this spring, so they could definitely look for a replacement there on the other side of the interior. And then offensive tackle Colton McCavitz had a pretty solid 2024 and looks to be the right tackle this coming season, but he's a free agent in 2026. And then, of course, left tackle Trent Williams will turn 37 this season. So they could definitely look to the future at the tackle position. And last thing to mention, like, gone are the days when this 49ers team was just an embarrassment of riches along the defensive line. So they could definitely look to add some talent in the trenches, especially in a draft class that has as much talent in the defensive line as this one does. So lots of different directions for the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, it's kind of wild how quickly a team that was known for dominating the trenches on both sides of the ball has big needs there.
Yeah.
When you're taking a look at the trade options at pick 11, I think a trade down here is a possibility, but the 49ers don't seem like a team that should be aggressive in moving up with the amount of needs that you just talked about. And they suddenly have on both lines. I'm not sure they can afford to invest that amount of draft capital, knowing how many different areas they need to address. So it does seem likely that they'll be picking at 11, but I think, like, when we're talking about specific players, this is probably the floor for somebody like Kenneth Grant, the defensive lineman from Michigan. And we were talking about Kenneth Grant in the 20s, like a few weeks ago. And there was something pre-combine. I just started thinking, like, this is a guy who is probably going to go a lot higher than we think. And it does seem that the momentum is there right now. So I think that would be an interesting pick. This is the perfect range for an offensive tackle or an interior offensive line, or if it's a tackle that you're not sure if needs to kick inside, there's a bunch available here too. I think you could get a player like Will Campbell from LSU, if he slides, or if you want to take a chance on Armen Membu out of Missouri, if he's still around. A lot of momentum for him moving up draft boards. Kelvin Banks Jr. from Texas, Josh Simmons from Ohio State. I think the list just kind of keeps going on. So I think you're going to get really good value here at 11. And now we get to predict what the 49ers are going to do.
Yeah, like we said, like, this is a spot, like, this 49ers team's not too incredibly far from getting back to a place where they can be one of those most feared teams in the NFL. Again, it's so weird. Like, that was the case last year, and then 2024 did not go the way that they were hoping. So to get back on track, I mean, they could do some things on the offensive side of the ball. It's interesting. It seems like they kind of want to gut the entire offensive side of the ball. It seems like every player that they have is in trade rumors right now. So it's going to be fascinating what they actually do and what holes that opens up. But I think that the value on defense here and the need on defense is just too good to pass up that marriage, that combination. You said it. This might be the floor for a player like Kenneth Grant. And I think that Grant is just such a perfect fit here because he does immediately plug up a need there in the middle as a run defender who can come in and make an impact right away, but would also give them a player who I think can develop into a much more dynamic pass rusher than he's even been in college. And putting Grant next to someone like Malik Collins probably helps Collins get better as well and produce better as well. So I'm going to say that San Francisco takes the second first round Michigan defensive tackle here at 11 in Kenneth Grant.
Yeah, and I think, not just the fit, which is great, and the player who I think is really special, but also you take a look at their division, and the Cardinals certainly want to run the ball, whether that's Kyler or James Conner or
Right.
Trey Benson. The Seahawks want to get back to running the ball. That's why they made the switch in offensive coordinator. Certainly have two talented backs there as well. And then we know the Rams are going to try to run Kyron Williams as much as possible. So getting that big run stuffer is a great idea. I think this is a great landing spot for Missouri's Armand Membu. I actually think he might get picked higher than this, but
Yeah.
he's ascended quite a bit since we recorded our pre-combine episodes. And I personally had him 28 on my board last week because I was grading him as an interior offensive line. Well, this week, post-combine, I've really reflected on whether he should be there or not, and I did decide to move him to offensive tackle. He's got the size, length, and movement skills. I think he can be a force. So that position change propelled him all the way up to 16 on my board. And that's not even factoring in athletic testing yet. I still need to make those adjustments. But I think San Francisco would be getting a heck of a prospect at offensive tackle, who, worst case, will fail inside and be a really impact guard. So I think both those players address really big needs for San Francisco.
Yeah, and quickly, San Francisco has become a team that needs an impact player right away. And I love that fit that there's a player, like you said, he's going to come in. He can play guard right away, but then also gives them that flexibility of like down the road. One of these tackle spots ends up being a need, which eventually, Trent Williams can't play, tackle forever. I don't know if Membu can slide to the left side, but I like that fit a lot. And Grant, like, is a player that, like, I feel like I do feel like maybe I may have waited too long to get him into the simulation at 11, but it feels like there's obviously Graham at the top. But for me, he's kind of in his own tier as defensive tackle too in this class. So to get him at 11, I think would be a great get for the 49ers. So interesting conversation, lots of different ways that the 49ers could go with it. But thanks for joining us for this show. Make sure you like and subscribe to the show and stick with us as we preview all 32 teams in this series leading up to the 2025 NFL Draft. From the draft room to the gridiron, the Draft Fellows have got you covered. Until next time, stay tuned and stay in the game.